Hey y'all, Jeff Nowak here, NOLA.com's digital sports producer. Just wanted to hit y'all up with a quick live chat to go over the latest Saints injury news before the divisional round matchup on Sunday against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. First of all, I'd like to thank our sponsor, Hancock Whitney Bank, for helping bring you all these live chats, these injury reports. I like doing them. If you have any questions, comments, throw them in the chat, and I'll get to them as I can throughout the back half of the chat here. But first things first, obviously Saints Bucs Sunday evening. It's an earlier start, but it's still the late matchup, and we have a few players to go through on this day of King Brees' birthday. I celebrate privately. I don't know how all of you celebrate January 15th, but I imagine at some point it will be a holiday in New Orleans. Drew Brees' birthday. He turned 42 today. He is going to be matched up with Tom Brady, the 43-year-old quarterback for the Bucs, the oldest quarterback in the NFL versus the second oldest quarterback in the NFL. But they are not the injuries we're going to be looking at. We are going to be looking at the four players either listed as out or questionable for the Saints. So let me pop this up a little bigger so you can see it. There it is. Okay, so let's start at the top. Patrick Robinson, he is out. He didn't practice all week, got that hamstring injury. He just came off IR with a similar issue. Let me fix this light here. Yeah, he just came off IR with a similar issue. He just can't seem to get right, and it's been nagging him all year. Going to keep going. Who knows whether he'll be available for the next round if they get there, but they're going to be without a bit of their depth at the cornerback position. But the good news is they have been without him a good part of this season already, so they know how to play with that. The biggest name on this list, the light keeps flashing on and off behind me. I don't know why, but the biggest name, Trey Hendrickson. He was limited Wednesday, Thursday. He did not play in the wild card round against the Bears. He was a full practice today, does not have a game day designation. That is huge. It appears he is good to go. The Saints will be getting back their sacks leader, going up against the team that he really had a coming out party against in week 9. He sacked Tom Brady 3 plays in a row at one point in that game. And one of those didn't hold up, but for a team that, they struggled to get to Mr. Trubisky last week. They held up well in the run game. They made Mitch Trubisky a bit uncomfortable, but they only sacked him once. And you get Trey Hendrickson back, 13.5 sacks, second in the NFL. That can only help. Tom Brady, as I mentioned on our live chat yesterday, he led the league in deep passing attempts. He threw deep 91 times this season. That's measured by receivers targeted 20-plus yards downfield. 91 times. 43 years old, 91 times he threw deep. So how do you stop a guy throwing deep? Well, first, you got to trust the secondary, which the Saints managed to tidy up in the second half of the season. They got beat a lot over the top in the first 4, 5, 6 weeks of the season. And in the last few, you've seen them kind of clamp down. I do apologize. The light's flickering behind me. I don't know why. But another way to do that, get to the quarterback. And that's what they did against Tom Brady in week 9. They put him on his back over and over and over again. He did not have time to target receivers down the field because the Saints defensive linemen were living in his kitchen. And when you get Trey Hendrickson back in my flickering light show of a live chat, that can only help. But there are 2 players who are questionable. You have Latavius Murray, you have Taysom Hill. Both of them got banged up, left early against the Bears. Well, I'm sorry. Latavius Murray left early against the Bears. Taysom Hill got banged up in the first quarter, got checked out, came back in, looked fine, but clearly that knee has been bugging him throughout the week. It's a different issue than what he was limited with in practice last week. Last week he was dealing with a concussion. This week he's dealing with a knee injury that he suffered on a hit in the first quarter. Neither of those guys practiced on Wednesday or Thursday, but both got limited work. They were limited participants in Friday's practice, which, they're going in listed as questionable, but that is a big thing that they were able to get out there at all today. So you got to watch. I think when you talk about a guy being questionable for a matchup, I think playoff questionable is a lot different than regular season questionable. If they can go, if they have the ability to play football, I think they will be active. So if either of those guys don't play, I think that you're looking at a pretty significant injury without really knowing what you're dealing with. Latavius Murray is listed with a quad injury, Taysom Hill with a knee. So it could just be a deep bruise. It could be something more structural. Who knows? I think we'll learn a lot on Sunday whether they go or not. But I'd expect to see both of those guys out there. The other names on this list, Will Clapp listed as questionable. He's not a big part of the game plan. He's used mostly in jumbo sets, and James Hurst takes that role a lot of the time, so not that impactful. The other guy you're not seeing on here that you're going to want to look out for, Traquan Smith. He was put on IR after Week 16. He was eligible to come off this week. The Saints designated to return. He's not listed on the active roster yet. Last week when they brought Diante Harris and Michael Thomas off the IR, they made that move on Saturday, so that's probably something you're going to find out tomorrow. It's not a guarantee that he plays in this game, even though they designated him to return. You saw that with Patrick Robinson in Week 17. He was designated to return, but he still did not play. They did not actually activate him until before the wildcard round. So just because Traquan Smith can come back doesn't mean he will, but that's a name to look out for tomorrow. As we scroll down, we're going to see the Bucs injury report, which there's more names on it, but they don't have a single player listed as out. Alex Kappa is not on this list anymore. He was throughout the week, but they have officially placed him on IR. He's a guard, and that's going to be a significant loss for them. It's going to be interesting to see how they hold up in the interior against that interior pressure, especially when the Saints really load up on that NASCAR package now that they have Trey Hendrickson back. But, the other guys, Jason Pierre-Paul, he didn't practice at all this week with a knee injury, but he is not listed with a game day designation. So the implication there is that he's going to play. If he was questionable, if he was out, you would see that. But despite not practicing, the Bucs appear to be fine throwing Jason Pierre-Paul out there. He had a really good game against the Saints, even in that 38-3 loss in Week 9. So he's a big piece for them. Jeremiah Ledbetter, defensive lineman, he is out. He's the only player listed as out. The other three listed as questionable. Andrew Adams, his is not an injury. They've not specified what he's dealing with, but he's listed as questionable. Jordan Whitehead is questionable with a knee injury. And Ronald Jones is questionable with quad and finger injuries. He's a guy who is another interesting one to watch. He has been a really productive rusher for them in basically every game but Week 9 against the Saints. The Bucs only had 7 rushing yards in that game, if I remember correctly, and he was just as big a part of it as anybody else. But the thing with the Bucs, you don't know who to prepare for. That's the problem. It could be Ronald Jones if he is back. He got limited practice the last couple of days. He could be out there, but if not, you get a heavier dose of Leonard Fournette. He was on that Bucs team when they arrived in Week 1, but he signed like a week earlier, midweek, and he just wasn't a part of the game plan at that point in the season. He will be this week. He has had a featured role the last 3-4 games, and he's looked good. He looked good against Washington, and he's looked good the last few weeks of the regular season. He's a guy who can catch the ball out of the backfield. Everyone in Louisiana knows who he is. He started at LSU. He's from New Orleans, went to St. Aug, and I've been on the train all season of saying, as good as Ronald Jones has been, as effective as he's been, I think that he's holding the Bucs back by being just good enough that you can't pound Leonard Fournette into the line. And he is just a weapon that Ronald Jones is not. Leonard Fournette can catch the ball out of the backfield pretty well for a guy his size. He is deceptively fast. He hits you like a freight train. And it's going to, the Saints handle the running game about as well as anyone. But I wouldn't want to be on the wrong end of a Leonard Fournette truck. But all right, let's get into the comments here. Let's see if y'all have any questions, any concerns. Someone asked, what's poppin'? Not much. Wunch the Beast checking in again. How's it going, Wunch? Let's scroll down here. Yeah. This is always, it's really funny to see a guy who has not really been penalized for personal fouls all season long be the guy that really gets into your head. And it's truly remarkable how impactful CJ Gardner-Johnson's trash talk can be. I went back and I watched some sideline footage, some pool footage from the game because it gives you a bit of a different angle than you have on the broadcast of the All-22. And one thing I noticed was, if you recall, Javon Wims caught a pretty nice, he made a pretty nice grab on the sideline that was initially called incomplete and then overturned. Javon Wims comes back on the field, flexes, and then CJ walks up to him and points to the ref and says, nah, incomplete. And then he points to the scoreboard. He's like, watch it. And then as they walk up the field for solid 2 minutes, Javon Wims is just walking about 2 paces ahead, and you can see CJ just following him up the field and just throwing darts into his ear for a solid 2 minutes. Later in the game, when Javon Wims had another chance to make a big play, he went like this and had the ball goes through his hand. Had the ball squirt through his hands in the end zone. Mitch Trubisky, you can give Mitch Trubisky all the crap you want. He threw a dime to Javon Wims for what should have been a touchdown to take the lead, and instead it was a drop. And CJ Gardner-Johnson wasn't in coverage on that play, but he was in coverage in Javon Wims' head. I will refuse to believe that Javon Wims was not thinking, I got him, and then dropped that ball. And it really is kind of incredible. And I'm sure he says some terrible things. I will not defend anything he says on the field because I can't hear it. The Sheldon Rankins was asked about his trash talk throughout the week, and he said he was asked for a G-rated version, if he could share a G-rated version, and he said there is no G-rated version of Chauncey Gardner-Johnson's trash talk. So that's in this game, I think you're probably more likely to see Mike Evans punch Marshawn Lattimore, but you never know with CJ. He finds a way. Anyway, going down. Enough of me waxing poetic about CJ. We have one more. Please mic up CJ. I can guarantee you CJ Gardner-Johnson will never, ever get a mic put on him by the NFL. They will not trust him for that privilege. Rich, yeah, we hit this earlier. I can scroll back up. Taysom Hill is questionable, so it's going to be a game time decision. That's really what that means. The NFL used to have probable and questionable tags. They changed that a few years ago because teams like the Patriots would constantly put 40 players on the injury report and list 36 of them as probable, and they would all play. I can't remember the numbers, but it was like 96% of players listed as probable ended up playing in the game. So it didn't really serve a purpose. So now you just have questionable and out, and just leaves a lot of gray area in terms of, what side of questionable are you on. Going into a playoff game as questionable, I think that means you are expected to play. If they thought you had an injury that would keep you out of the game, they would just say you were out. It's not going to be a question because this is the last game of the season for one of these teams. The Saints would prefer it's not them, but if Latavius Murray is sitting on the sideline thinking he can play and it's just a matter of pain tolerance, he's going to play. This is not a situation where you err on the side of caution. This is win or go home. So I'd expect both those guys to be out there in some capacity. Taysom Hill's the one that you have a bit of concern with because knee issues can worsen based on use, and if they're concerned that there's some structural issues, you could see a bit more caution there. I think with a soft tissue injury like you see with Latavius, I think he's going to try to stretch it out pregame, see how it goes, and I imagine you'll see him out there, and it's just going to be a matter of how many snaps can he pick up? How much do you have to rely on Alvin Kamara? And I don't think the Saints are worried about relying on Alvin Kamara. But, I think you saw in that touchdown pass from Latavius just how impactful he can be in a game, how useful he is out of the backfield, even on a play where he was not designed to be a pass option. Now, I'm going to get into this real quick because it's been bugging me. I did a film study on that touchdown by Latavius Murray, and I pointed out what Drew Brees said after the game, which is he was not intended to be a pass option on that play. He was supposed to block Khalil Mack. He cut Khalil Mack, ended up on the ground, and when he saw Drew Brees in trouble, he popped back up, gave him an option, gave him an outlet, and made a great play. Now, a lot of people have watched the mic'd up package from that game. And what you saw in that mic'd up package is they had a kind of montage of that play. And at the beginning, you see Drew Brees turn to Latavius Murray and say, "Get open for me if you can." That happened, except that's not the same play. I went back, and if you go back and watch that mic'd up package, and this is on my Twitter account if you want to go check it out, at Jeff_Nowak. If you go back and watch that, you can see Drew Brees is standing in the shotgun and looking to his left to Latavius Murray. On the touchdown, Drew Brees was under center. So you're already seeing something not adding up here. Go and look at the line on the field. You can see where he's standing. And then go back and look at the 3rd and 4 play that Drew Brees hit Michael Thomas deep for a big gain. on that play. Drew Brees is in the shotgun, and you can see him turn to his left and say something to Latavius Murray. It wasn't on the mic'd up package, and there's no scale for it, but that's when that happened. So whoever cut that together had a clip of Drew Brees talking to Latavius Murray, and it worked and threw it in there. I think it was probably just a mistake, but different play. So when I say he was not a pass option on that play, which is something that Drew Brees confirmed to us after the game, it's true. Anyway, that was just me having a captive audience to complain about something. But I think that when you look at a guy like Latavius Murray not being out there, it's more impactful than it seems knowing you have Alvin Kamara, because he's just a guy who you trust implicitly. You know he's going to do the right thing. He's going to make the right play. He's going to pick up his blocks. He's going to react. He's not going to lay on the field and relax after he makes his block. He's going to look around and see what's happening and understand how he can impact the play. And without him out there, you lose that. You still have guys like Ty Montgomery, Dwayne Washington, guys you trust. You know, you saw what Ty Montgomery could do in week 17, but you want to be firing on all cylinders, and he's got to watch. Pam is nervous. I hope it's good nervous. I think one thing the Saints have done to fans in the last few years is give them a lot of reasons to be bad nervous, to be scared nervous. I think nervous energy is a good thing, but it's only when it's excited nervous energy. And I think that's what the Saints are giving you this year. I think that they're ready to win the big game this year. It just feels that way. Drew Brees is playing at a very high level. Alvin Kamara is playing at the highest level of his career. Michael Thomas looked really good in his return last week. That is one thing that I didn't mention. Michael Thomas not appearing on the injury report is significant. I mean, he's been dealing with an ankle injury all season. All season. He suffered it in week 1. He didn't come back till week 9. He played 5 games and then went on injured reserve because it just wasn't right. If his ankle was still hurt, was still an issue, if he had to be limited in practice, you would see that on the injury report. You do not, and that is a very good sign for the Saints, because the whole point of putting him on injured reserve was that so when you get to the playoffs, you don't have to worry about throttling Michael Thomas's snaps, keeping an eye on that ankle. You want it to be 100%. You want to see him and Drew Brees get a real shot, and I think that's what you're going to see. Just going through some questions here. Don't mind me. Yeah, the other guy. So we mentioned Michael Thomas, Diante Harris, also not on this injury report. Also went on injured reserve after week 15. Before week 15, that lost after the loss to the Eagles. He went on injured reserve with Michael Thomas. Both came off for last week. And, you know, everyone's talking about Alvin Kamara coming back from his COVID quarantine, talking about Michael Thomas getting off IR. Diante Harris was a beast in that game, and Taysom Hill missed him on what should have been a 70-yard touchdown. He had his defender beat clean over the top, and Taysom Hill just kind of held on to the ball a little too long. He just wanted him to be wide open for some reason before he threw it. It was on Taysom Hill. Just not a good rep by him, and he just didn't get it to him. But Diante Harris set a career high in catches, in yards in the first half, and he should have had a monster touchdown to make that game really special. And, you know, Diante Harris just seems like a guy who shows up in the playoffs. His career high in yardage before the wild card round this year, the wild card round last year against the Vikings, when he caught that bomb from Taysom Hill on the exact same play, on the exact same route concept, where he kind of took that little dino post outside and cut back in. Should have had it again. But, you know, he's a guy who the Saints really, really missed, I think, especially in the return game, in those little jet sweeps, little bubble screens to the edge where you can make a guy miss. Because, dude, that guy's shifty, man. Good luck tackling him in space. You just lose him behind the line, and then he's gone. But Jerry's ready. Good to have you here, Jerry. You know, I don't want to talk about it anymore either. I'd like to go watch the game myself, but hey, I have to do these live chats, so I'm glad you're all with me. Let's see if there's any other quick questions. We need Taysom. He gives Drew a break. Yeah, I agree Taysom Hill's a big part of the offense. I don't think giving Drew Brees a couple snaps off is necessarily his biggest role, because you could call a timeout if Drew Brees needed a break. I don't think that at this point in his career there's any fatigue issue going on. But I think he's just a part of the offense that you have to game plan for. And I could see the Saints, if you're slow playing an injury designation and you don't think he's going to play, but you want them to have to prepare for this guy anyway, it's going to be Taysom Hill. That's why if one of the guys that are listed as questionable, I could see Taysom Hill being out before I see Latavius Murray being out for that reason, because just the fact that Taysom Hill is potentially going to be in the game, the Bucs have to account for him. If you remember, he had a huge game against the Bucs in Week 9. He had that long run where he hurdled a guy down to the goal line, and he had at least one more big play. I can't remember if it was a pass. I think he caught a touchdown in that game. But he's just you call him a Swiss Army knife for a reason. The defense has to account for him in so many different ways. Every time he runs out onto the field, you have to be ready for him to potentially line up a quarterback. You have to be ready for him to potentially line up in the slot as a fullback. And even if when he's fumbling left and right, which has been the case this season, he had that fumble on that play that I described earlier to Diante Harris. He's a weapon that you have to game plan for. And if he's not out there, that limits the Saints. It limits them to a normal offense rather than, kind of this hybrid wildcat that we've seen the last few years and has been very effective. What impact will Trey have? This will be the last question I answer, and then I can let y'all go. From Saints got robbed. I wonder whether you're a Saints fan. I think you are, based on your name. But what impact will Trey have? Well, I mean, it's not that hard to find a game where you can look at Trey Hendrickson's impact, and that was Week 9 against the Bucs. He had sacks on 3 consecutive plays in that game. One was negated due to injury, but that's not normal. He gets off field very quickly. He's very good at using his hands and just fighting around blockers. He's really good on the inside when they throw him in that NASCAR package and they just fly upfield. And for the Saints to win this game, I don't want to say like they aren't favored in the game. I think they are. But for the Saints to control this game, even remotely close to the way they did in Week 9, they need to get pressure on Tom Brady. And he's just a guy who makes them more, I don't want to say physical, but he makes them much more difficult to account for because of that speed, of that threat off the edge or the interior. It's just a weapon that you want to have because the Saints have really good interior linemen and you have to account for them too. So if you go back to the opening drive against the Panthers opening drive in Week 17 and go the third play of the game is third down. Panthers have the ball. He just goes on a stunt, comes inside, and he gets there before the back who leaks out to try to block him. And he looks like he just has like temporary blindness. That level of speed, that level of physicality is tough to match. And they don't have, when you have backups in there, it just doesn't give you that impact. So, when you say impact, I think he will have a big impact if he is 100%, if he's out there for his typical allotment of snaps and he can really make Tom Brady feel it. But okay. That is all. Again, my name is Jeff Nowak, NOLA.com's digital sports producer. I'd like to thank our sponsor, Hancock Whitney Bank, for helping us bring these live chats to y'all. If you want to hit me up on Twitter, it's just my name, Jeff_Nowak. Hit me up any questions, comments, whatever. I'll respond to you, and DMs are always open. All that jazz. Make sure to check out NOLA.com /sports/Saints for all your latest Saints coverage. Make sure to follow us on Twitter @SaintsNow, on Instagram @NOLA.Saints, on YouTube and Facebook. Both are New Orleans Saints and NOLA.com. And we'll see what happens. I'll be talking to y'all before the game on Sunday for our series of pregame live chats, which we've done every week. And I appreciate y'all who chime in. Make sure you have your questions ready, and we'll hit it then. But that's it. Peace, y'all.